Bonsoir à toutes et à tous. J'espère que vous allez tous bien. Merci d'être parmi nous ce soir. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for connecting with us this evening. The reason we are here this evening is because as a city, we are responsible for periodically reviewing our urban plan and regulations to meet our obligations in terms of land use, environment, long-term planning, and public finances. Nous sommes ici ce soir car, en tant que ville, nous avons la responsabilité de réviser régulièrement notre plan d'urbanisme et nos règlements afin de respecter nos obligations en matière d'aménagement de territoire, d'environnement, de planification à long terme et de finances publiques. Our plan must consider the interests and concerns of the entire community of Dollard-des-Ormeaux. Notre conseil des élus et notre administration ont hâte de collaborer avec les citoyennes et les entreprises locales et les promoteurs pour faire en sorte que le prochain plan d'urbanisme prépare notre ville à répondre aux besoins de notre réalité socio-démographique. Our elected officials and administration are eager to come together with residents, local businesses, and developers to ensure that the next urban plan ensures that our city is prepared for the ever-changing needs of our socio-demographic reality. It is essential that our plan revolves around the diversification of our residential, commercial, and industrial assets to ensure that our city maximizes opportunities for professional and young families, all while safeguarding the comfort of our existing residents and in particular our seniors in our community. A major priority for the city is to provide a variety of housing opportunities for our existing residents looking to downsize and new individuals and families looking to settle in Dollard-des-Ormeaux, as well as to meet some of the demands of the housing shortages as we all face today. Une autre priorité pour nous est de diversifier les revenus de la ville, enfin de rééquilibrer les finances et de contrôler le niveau de taxation, tout en assurant la qualité de service et la qualité de vie de nos résidents. Another key priority is to diversify the revenues of the city in order to rebalance the finances and control taxation levels, ensuring quality of service and quality of life to our residents for the years to come. I thank you profoundly for taking the time this evening, for attending tonight's session, and we look forward to working collectively and collaboratively to pave the way for a shared vision of our beautiful city. Je vous remercie tous d'avoir participé à la session de ce soir. J'ai hâte de travailler collectivement vers une vision commune de notre ville. Your participation in these upcoming consultations is key and essential as this process requires the involvement of the entire community. All ideas are always welcome. Toutes vos idées sont bienvenues. Merci beaucoup. Je vous souhaite une belle soirée. Thank you and have a nice evening and a productive session. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le maire, pour cette introduction. Bonsoir et bienvenue à cette séance d'information sur la révision du plan d'urbanisme. Welcome, everyone. My name is Jacques Vénard, and my role is to facilitate tonight's public information session on the Dollard-des-Ormeaux urban planning program. So tonight's objective is to provide citizens of DDO with information on the consultation process regarding this program. L'objectif de la séance de ce soir est de vous présenter l'avancement des démarches relatives à la révision du plan d'urbanisme et aussi de vous faire part des activités de consultation auxquelles vous êtes invités à participer d'ici la fin de l'année. Alors, comme vous avez pu le constater, la rencontre se fera dans les deux langues. Vous aurez l'occasion de poser vos questions dans la langue de votre choix. Alors, avant d'entrer dans le vif du sujet, je vais prendre quelques instants pour vous présenter l'ordre du jour. So, very briefly, the agenda for tonight's meeting. Donc, vous avez donc eu le mot de bienvenue de Monsieur le maire. Dans quelques instants, je vais vous donner des consignes pour la rencontre et je vous présenterai les personnes qui vont intervenir au cours de la soirée. So, tonight's meeting, we already have welcoming words from Mayor-elect Botoshi. I will give you very briefly meeting instruction, and also I will present the speakers that will address, that will make presentations for you tonight. So I will also, at the end of the meeting, after the presentation, there will be a question period, and I will give you a summary of how you can participate in the consultations. Donc, quelques consignes avant de débuter. Vous avez donc la possibilité, tout au long de la présentation, de poser des questions en utilisant le module Q&A. Donc, le module Q&A se retrouve dans le bas de votre écran. Si vous utilisez la version française de Zoom, ça va être marqué Q et R. So you will be able to ask questions during the whole presentation using the Q&A module that is in the bottom of your screen. Just so basically you click on the button and you'll be able to write on the module. So questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. Obviously, we're asking you to ask questions that are related to the subject of tonight's meeting. So only these questions will be answered. And we are also asking you to remain respectful and courteous in your comments. This session is recorded and will be rebroadcasted on the city's website, and you have the address at the bottom here. Donc, la séance sera enregistrée et rediffusée sur le site de la Ville de Dollard-des-Ormeaux. On va donc prendre les questions à la fin de la présentation, donc on va y répondre, mais vous pouvez poser vos questions tout au long de la session. On répondra également uniquement aux questions qui sont en lien avec le sujet de ce soir, soit évidemment le programme d'urbanisme et en particulier la consultation sur ce programme. On vous demande de demeurer courtois et respectueux, évidemment, dans vos commentaires et questions. La séance est enregistrée, sera rediffusée telle que je l'ai mentionné. Vous voyez l'adresse en bas ici. Donc, on serait rendu maintenant à la présentation. Je vais donc prendre quelques instants pour vous présenter les personnes qui vont s'adresser à vous ce soir et donc faire la présentation et également répondre à vos questions. Nous avons France Giguère, qui est urbaniste et qui est conseillère à la direction au service de l'aménagement urbain et de l'ingénierie, qui sera accompagnée de Carrie Stratman, qui est chef de section planification urbaine et gestion du territoire, encore une fois, au service de l'aménagement urbain et de l'ingénierie. Quelques personnes vont s'ajouter au cours de la période de questions et réponses et je vous les présenterai à ce moment. Alors, sans plus tarder, je vais passer la parole à France Giguère.
Bonjour. Moi, je vais vous présenter le processus de planification qui est en cours. Mais il faut premièrement prendre conscience que la ville et les quartiers dans lesquels on habite aujourd'hui n'ont pas toujours été comme ils sont aujourd'hui. Il y a 60 ans, ça fait pas très longtemps, on avait des terres agricoles là, où maintenant on a des quartiers résidentiels avec des maisons, avec des parcs, des espaces verts, des rues, des pistes cyclables. Donc, la ville évolue, les choses changent. Aujourd'hui, on est fait face à des défis qui n'existaient pas. C'est des nouveaux défis d'aménagement dont il faut tenir compte. Mais pour planifier, il faut tenir compte des différents niveaux d'aménagement du territoire, donc des intentions, des règles dictées par des gouvernements supérieurs. Donc, si on parle de la province de Québec, déjà, il y a des intentions de vouloir respecter des grands principes de résilience, par exemple la résilience au changement climatique, la protection des territoires agricoles et de la ressource en eau, l'intégration du transport dans l'aménagement du territoire et de consolider les milieux de vie. Donc, les orientations gouvernementales du Québec nous sont soumises pour qu'on puisse en tenir compte dans notre planification. Par la suite, on a un autre niveau de gouvernement qui est la Communauté métropolitaine de Montréal, qui prépare un plan d'aménagement, le PMAD. C'est un plan d'aménagement et de développement du territoire pour la grande région de Montréal. Quand on parle de la grande région de Montréal, on parle de tout le territoire qui couvre la ville de Montréal, la ville de Laval et 82 municipalités en tout autour de la ville de Montréal. Donc, c'est une grande région métropolitaine. Encore une fois, dans le document en question d'aménagement du territoire, il y a des grandes orientations qui parlent d'environnement, de logement, le besoin de structurer nos villes autour des milieux de transport structurants, des milieux des pôles de transport en commun. Et ensuite, on a le niveau de l'agglomération de Montréal, qui est un autre niveau de gouvernement ou de planification du territoire dont il faut tenir compte et où on a des exigences. Donc, on parle de l'île de Montréal. Ici, on a Dollard-des-Ormeaux fait partie de ce territoire-là. Et là, ce que vous voyez sur l'écran, c'est les grandes affectations du territoire. Donc, les espaces en jaune sont les espaces résidentiels. Les espaces en mauve sont les zones industrielles. Le rouge orangé, c'est les aires plus commerciales, les centres commerciaux, les boulevards urbains commerciaux, etc. Donc, il y a des grandes lignes qui sont dictées des gouvernements supérieurs pour nous dire comment planifier notre ville avant qu'on puisse décider comment on veut développer nos villes. Il faut tenir compte de ces orientations. À notre niveau, au niveau local, on a le plan d'urbanisme de la ville de Dollard-des-Ormeaux, qui est en révision maintenant et sur lequel on veut vous entendre, on veut avoir vos commentaires, on veut savoir qu'est-ce qui vous intéresse de faire pour planifier la ville de demain. Et encore plus précisément, le plan d'urbanisme, après ça, est traduit dans un règlement de zonage, des règlements d'urbanisme qui sont plus précis et qui nous dit exactement où on peut faire du résidentiel, où on peut construire combien d'étages, les distances entre les bâtiments, où on met les parcs, qu'est-ce qu'on prévoit comme piste cyclable, comme voie de transport, etc. Donc, si on prend notre territoire à nous, on parle de la ville de Dollard-des-Ormeaux. Vous voyez ici le territoire de la ville de Dollard-des-Ormeaux, les grands paysages, disons. On a les quartiers résidentiels comme on les connaît avec nos maisons unifamiliales en jaune pâle. En jaune un peu plus foncé, on a des quartiers résidentiels aussi, mais avec des logements un peu plus denses, des maisons de ville, des complexes résidentiels. On a le boulevard Saint-Jean, le boulevard des Sources, qui est actuellement commercial surtout. Donc, c'est là qu'on retrouve nos commerces et c'est là qu'on retrouve notre trafic, notre circulation, puis beaucoup les voitures. En bleu, vous voyez le centre civique, le parc, le marché de l'Ouest. Donc, c'est plus un espace qui est pris comme le centre civique de Dollard-des-Ormeaux, le centre communautaire. Et puis, en gris, en bas, c'est les industries, donc le parc industriel. Ce qu'on se rend compte, c'est que nos enjeux, en fait, ce qui nous intéresse de discuter avec vous, c'est pas nécessairement les quartiers résidentiels qui vont pas nécessairement changer. On les connaît, on habite dedans, on veut pas nécessairement que ça change. C'est des beaux quartiers. Mais ce qui nous intéresse, c'est comment on va aménager les boulevards urbains, le boulevard Saint-Jean, le boulevard des Sources, et comment on a une nouvelle réalité, en fait, c'est qu'on a 4 gares du REM qui vont nous entourer. On a 4 stations de train du réseau électrique métropolitain qu'on voit ici, les 4 ronds autour de notre territoire. Et puis, comment on va aménager l'espace pour faire face à cette nouvelle réalité-là de transport en commun qui vient s'implanter près de chez nous. Je vais laisser la parole maintenant à ma collègue Carrie Stratman en anglais pour vous expliquer la suite.
Merci, France. I'll now take a few minutes to discuss the rules in force and why we need to revise them. So they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, and the following humorous caricature of why updated bylaws are necessary speaks volumes. But in short, it's to give ourselves common rules so that everyone can live in a healthy, respectful, and harmonious environment. And why do we have to revise our bylaws? To have planning tools that are better adapted to the context and realities of our territory, to ensure optimal coordination between land use planning, transportation, the environment, the installation of equipment and infrastructures, and sustainable development. We also need to guide future redevelopment based on the constraints and the potential of our territory. And we need to align the regulations with today's reality by taking into account emerging needs. So to elaborate on this point, I would just like to mention that the zoning bylaw that is currently in force, zoning bylaw 82704, was adopted in June 1982 as a consolidation of a bylaw from the 1960s and has been subject to 334 amendments over the past 40 years. The bylaw that is currently in force still contains articles pertaining to things such as live animals, the drive-in theater, which was once on our territory, antennas on masts, and even today still prohibits the sale of tobacco products and tattoo parlors within the city limits. However, the reality of today includes the arrival of sharing and circular economies, the arrival of businesses such as Airbnb and the SQDCs, the notion of sustainable development principles, and soon the arrival of 4 new REM stations encircling our territory, as Madame Giguère had pointed out. So we also need to revise our bylaws because the city has an obligation to bring its regulations in line with the schéma d'aménagement of the Montreal agglomeration, as mentioned earlier by my colleague. Additionally, the city has a desire to simplify the understanding and the use of regulations for everybody. So I would just like to take a few minutes to explain the consultations that have taken place since 2020. So between February 27th and March 25th of 2020, a community engagement survey with approximately 500 responses was held, focused on 7 overarching themes. We had living environments, public facilities, business and economic activities, buildings of heritage interest, for which we have 3 on our territory, transportation and mobility, sustainable development, and there was an open question on the vision of our community in 2030. Following that, an online participatory workshop was held on December 14th, 2020, which was focused on presenting the preliminary vision and orientations of the draft urban planning program and to evaluate the degree of adhesion to certain proposed strategies, which are identified in the summary of the draft urban planning program, which is available currently on the city's website. In the winter of 2021, the population was invited to submit written briefs and opinions on the preliminary vision statement and development orientations. All these consultations were summarized into what we call the public consultation report, which is available on the city's website. So since 2020, the real estate pressures and various specific construction proposals, which we know under the acronym SCIOPE, have really mobilized the community around the issue of densification along our boulevards and in our transit-oriented development areas, which Madame Giguère had identified previously. This has led to a need to deepen our reflection on the redevelopment of these sectors. So I will now pass the microphone back to Madame Giguère, who will discuss the relaunch of the consultation process.
Donc, on a, depuis le printemps 2020, on a fait des sondages avec la population. On a fait un atelier en ligne parce que c'était dans le temps de la COVID. On a reçu des mémoires et des opinions, puis on a commencé le processus de rédaction du nouveau plan d'urbanisme basé sur la réalité, nos exigences qui avaient été imposées par les différents niveaux de planification supérieure, mais aussi par tout ce qui a été recueilli des répondants dans les sondages et dans les ateliers qu'on avait faits. Maintenant, à l'été 2023, on reprend les rênes pour continuer la démarche. Et puis, on a créé un comité de suivi pour s'assurer que les démarches se font bien, que c'est transparent. So we created a monitoring committee to overview the process and to make sure that we do it properly. Tonight is the Séance, the information session to explain to you what will be the next steps in the process. But first, I'd like to show you the mandate of the monitoring committee. So the monitoring committee is, we made a call of interest to see what residents would be willing to participate in a committee to overview the proper progress of the participatory process. Donc, ils vont conseiller l'administration municipale sur les bonnes approches en matière d'activités de consultation et d'information. Ils vont nous donner des idées et des suggestions pour améliorer notre façon de consulter la population. They will ensure a context conducive to exchange and collaboration between participants. Et à la fin, ils vont produire un rapport d'évaluation sur le processus participatif. Donc, c'est des gens qui habitent dans vos quartiers qui se sont portés volontaires pour faire partie de ce comité. The composition of the committee is 7 citizens selected by the city following a call for candidates. So on the west side of Saint-Jean, we have Mélanie Crechelot and Georges de Matos. In the center, between the two boulevards, we have Vincent Chevalier, Lawrence Harris, and Alison Weiner. And on the east side of Sources Boulevard, we have Zhenlong Liu and Lucie Binet. So these are residents. They are active in the community. They know what's happening, and they can submit their comments coming from their fellow citizens to us, to the city, to the administration, to make sure that we work together and we work in a good way. And there's also on the committee, there are three professionals, which are myself with the director of the planning department and the engineering, Monsieur Sylvain Boulian, and Carrie Strotman, who was my colleague here talking tonight. As well as this committee is, le comité est présidé par Monsieur Jacques Bénard, qui est notre facilitateur indépendant embauché par la Ville de Dollard-des-Ormeaux. Voilà. Et puis, bon, pour le programme d'activité qui s'en vient pour l'automne, la façon que vous pourrez participer après cette séance de ce soir d'information, la prochaine activité sera le 20 septembre. Il va y avoir un panel d'experts qui va débattre des défis d'aménagement des banlieues. So a panel of experts will be debating on suburban planning challenges. We'll have people from Vivre en Ville, one person from Vivre en Ville, one person from Santé Montréal to talk about how to live in a healthy lifestyle in the city, and we'll have someone from Table de Quartier de l'Ouest de l'île to speak about the needs for dwellings for different types of people, and pour les différents ménages, les logements, les besoins en logement. On a aussi une personne de PME Montréal pour parler de l'activité économique aussi. The next activity after that will be October 11. It's a thematic workshop, so that we'll have roundtables with the population who will come, and we'll talk about the future of the traffic and the future of mobility in DDO. And we'll try to find solutions together and raise ways to make it better. Le deuxième atelier thématique sera le 8 novembre, va porter sur le développement des grands boulevards, sachant que on a des obligations de densifier, de construire plus de logements pour faciliter ou atténuer la crise du logement, et puis aussi pour répondre aux besoins de densification autour des gares, du REM. On va voir comment on peut développer nos grands boulevards Saint-Jean, des Sources, entre autres, pour que ce soit bien fait pour l'avenir. Et on espère qu'on pourrait aussi organiser une porte ouverte sur le transport collectif durant l'automne avec la REM, la STM et la RTM, donc l'Agence régionale de transport de Montréal. Donc ça, c'est un rappel sur les différentes activités qui vont venir et auxquelles vous pourrez venir. Ça va être en présence au centre civique pour participer et discuter ensemble de solutions et de trouver des solutions et d'être positif dans la réalisation de notre plan d'urbanisme. Je passe maintenant la parole encore à Jacques Bédard pour la suite. Merci.
Thank you, France and Carrie. We're going to go back to the slide. I think it was removed from the screen where I'm talking about, yes, thank you very much, the question and answer period. Like I mentioned to you at the beginning of the meeting, you can ask your questions by using the feature, the Q&A feature that is at the bottom of your screen, Q&A, you see it there with the little arrow. So we'll respond, we'll address the questions in the order that they were asked in that feature, that module. Again, remain courteous and respectful as it will improve also the climate of the meeting if this need be. There might be some answers that need a bit more research. So if this is the case, they will be answered later on. From that meeting, there will be a document with all the questions that have been asked and the answers that will be on the city's website. You see the address. Donc, voilà, je vais rapidement mentionner donc qu'on est rendu à la période de questions, que vous pouvez utiliser la fonction Q et R, questions et réponses. Les questions seront traitées dans l'ordre qu'elles ont été posées et les réponses au besoin, si on doit faire un peu plus de recherche pour apporter une réponse à vos questions, il y a un document qui sera produit et qui se retrouvera sur le site web de la ville de DDO, qui comprendra toutes les questions qui ont été posées et également les réponses fournies. Voilà, donc nous sommes maintenant rendus à... Je regarde un peu les questions. Voilà, alors il y a une première question de Joe. First question from Joe. How many citizens and residents of DDO received the invitation for this meeting? And when was the invitation sent? So I'll ask France. So did all of the people in the DDO, all the residents, receive the invitation, and when was it sent?
On a fait un envoi. We sent it to about 18,000 people, so covering every house in Dollard-des-Ormeaux. But the fact that sometimes it's based on the postal code, and sometimes the postal codes, the limits of the area where a postal code is located is not exactly the same limit than the limit of the city, so it overlaps in Pierrefonds or Kirkland, let's say, and there's less in Dollard-des-Ormeaux, so it's not an exact send, but it was sent to every house, every address, and we tried to send
every
it to
household in DDO received the invitation. Now, the other question was, when was this invitation sent?
It was sent on the 21st of August.
Thank you. Another question from, and again, there's not too many questions. I encourage all of those we have quite, 80 participants. I encourage you to ask your question. Je vous encourage tous à poser des questions si vous en avez, particulièrement sur le processus de consultation. Et j'ai justement une question là-dessus de George de Matos. Do we have the exact time and place when the next activities will be held? So you mentioned you presented the activities, France, a bit earlier. Do we know the times of these activities and the places where they'll be held? Will it be online? Will it be in person? France.
Les activités vont être en personne. Ils vont être dans le centre communautaire du centre civique de Dollard-des-Ormeaux. So it will be at the civic center, in the community center. and it will be at 7 o'clock at night. So on the 11th, on September 20th at 7 o'clock at night in the Civic Center Community Center. The next one, the workshop will be on October 11 at 7 o'clock at night, à 7 heures le soir, le 11 octobre, in the Civic Center at the Community Center as well. The same place, same time will be on the November 8th activity for the workshop as well.
And France,
Donc, à 7 heures le soir, le 8 novembre,
Merci.
pour la deuxième activité de workshop, d'atelier.
Donc, tout au même endroit, la même heure également. Est-ce que les gens vont recevoir des invitations? Will people from Dollard-des-Ormeaux receive invitations for these public meetings?
We would like to use all the media tools that we have in hand. I don't think we will do a postal. We will send it by post, but I don't know. We still have to discuss it. We're still preparing, and we will have to see if it's necessary. But we have the website. We have c'est les différents outils de.
Different communication tools from the city will be used to make
Je
sure
les ai
that
pas
the
là sur le bout
residents.
de la langue, mais on
Okay.
a le site, les différents. Bon, ça me revient pas, mais je vais les écrire sur les réponses.
Très bien. Merci, France. Une question de Okda qui a été posée en français. Est-ce que les nouveaux logements et le changement de zonage sera au détriment des espaces verts? Peut-être pour bien comprendre la question, en fait, peut-être la reformuler. Est-ce qu'il y a, à votre connaissance, dans la révision du plan d'urbanisme, une réduction des espaces verts ou des constructions sur des espaces verts qui appartiendraient à la ville, par exemple? Est-ce que c'est est-ce qu'il y a des plans dans ce sens-là ou des objectifs?
Je pense pas, ça serait pas une bonne idée de réduire les espaces verts de la ville de Dollard-des-Ormeaux. On est chanceux, on a beaucoup de parcs, on a beaucoup d'espaces verts. On a des grands parcs linéaires avec des pistes avec la piste cyclable. C'est pas l'intention de réduire ces espaces-là. C'est au contraire, c'est d'en ajouter d'autres dans les endroits qui sont minéralisés où il y a déjà juste beaucoup d'espaces de stationnement ou d'asphalte qui est utilisé par les voitures. Donc, on espère améliorer ces milieux-là, mais pas d'enlever des milieux naturels.
Très bien. So no objective to reduce the green spaces in DDO. On the contrary, I understand from what you're saying that there is a goal to green the city by sometimes removing asphalts in certain areas, make sure that we have less like les îlots de chaleur in English. Maybe Carrie, you can translate that, les îlots de chaleur.
Heat islands.
Heat islands, thank you very much. Une question de Sheila. Does the city have a recent census of the breakdown of the aged population to meet the needs of the residents to be appropriately planned for the future, kids, seniors? So do we have all the census data to make proper planning, especially with regards to transportation and as Sheila mentioned, the inclusion for the REM, etc. So do you have that information? And I'll go a bit further. How do you consider the demographics in the urban plan? So first, do you have this data? And second, what do you do with it if you have it?
I can speak to the question regarding data. Certainly with the recent release of the statistics from the census, we will be updating the draft planning program with the revised data. So certainly we do look at all the demographics that are available from different sources. But as mentioned, we're going to be updating the draft planning program to reflect the recent release of Census Canada information.
Thank you. And how do you take that into account in your planning process?
We have to look at the diversity of our population, and we have to make sure that we are reflecting the needs of our population based on that diversity, whether it be in housing, whether it be in schools, public facilities, etc. So it's integral to this entire process.
Thank you. Rajesh, I hope I pronounced it properly, is asking, will it be possible to send future invitations to those that attended today's session? So I guess people use their emails to register for this session. Could those people who attended today, the meeting, get the invitations for the next activities? France, donc, est-ce que les gens qui se sont inscrits à partir avec leur adresse courriel pourraient recevoir l'invitation pour les prochaines rencontres?
Absolument. On pourrait monter une liste des gens qui sont intéressés à recevoir plus directement l'information. If I come back to where I was before, I was looking for the word infolettre. The city of Dollard-des-Ormeaux has an infolette that comes out every 2 weeks or so, and that's where we will people subscribe to receive an email, and the actualities, les nouvelles sont sur l'infolette qui reçoivent un courriel pour donner l'information. Donc, je vous invite à vous inscrire sur le site web de la Ville de Dollard-des-Ormeaux, à l'infolettre de la Ville pour avoir des nouvelles à jour aussi. Ensuite, on a aussi le tableau électronique. We also have an electronic board on Saint-Jean and the source to give news and announce the events that are coming. And we use Facebook. And I think we have Instagram, as well.
So there are different ways that people will receive that information. So Rajesh, as Francine mentioned, there is a possibility to send a future invitation to those who actually register to this session. And please make sure you register also for the city's newsletter to be informed on a regular basis. There's also a webpage that I've been mentioning several times, and I will also show it later during the presentation, where you'll get all the information. Donc, toute l'information va se retrouver sur le site Internet et différents moyens là, que la ville dispose, infolettres, etc., seront utilisés. Second part of the question of Rajesh, it was actually, I think it, so there was a question about, is it possible, yes, I remember, is it possible to get this presentation? So the presentation, Rajesh, will be on the city's website. And it's also not only the PowerPoint that you've seen, but also this session is recorded. So you can view it the second time if you want, but also the presentation will be available for all the residents of those who were not able to attend. So another question, are these sessions only about traffic and boulevard development, or will we participate and be consulted on housing, condos, apartment developments, etc.? Especially the height of condos, apartment buildings are concerning since we are a suburb and we want to maintain that charm, not make DDO a concrete jungle like downtown. So let's break this down. Well, these sessions the sessions that you've mentioned, especially the two workshops, one is on the boulevard, the other one is on mobility. Will this be an occasion to talk about the various subjects, or will we only be talking about these specific aspects?
We try to give a theme to the workshop, so that we try to choose a theme that is very preoccupant. Maybe I'd like to Carrie to answer that, because I think she's better in English than me.
So we have tried to focus on our two workshops on specific themes that have come out time and time again, that have mobilized the community. And when we are talking about densification and we're talking about at that point heights of buildings and so on, I believe that will all come out in all likelihood in our various workshops. So these workshops are basically related to a theme, but we will be discussing everything that falls within that spectrum. So it's not limited specifically to how the development, the boulevards will be developed or traffic and mobility. It will, we'll be looking at things a little bit wider than that as well.
Thank you, Carrie. Another, which is more a comment here from John Bakakis, who's mentioning that the previous process, which involved developments, seemed to be directed to a result already decided, and citizens were asked to react in a very short time. The comment here is that John hopes that this process will be a reset by the city. So thank you, John. Robert Wiseman, do we have any mixed-use construction plan on the main roads, residential and condos and commercial retail? Donc, I think the question is very clear. Do we have any plans for mixed-use developments on the main roads, which I guess are the boulevards? Carrie?
So I can confirm that we have 2 projects that are currently under construction, which are mixed-use projects. One which you have seen, the old shopping center with the Kitchen 73 on Brunswick Boulevard near Sources, and we have another one on the corner of Hyman and Sources as well. Those are mixed-use projects where you have commercial on the ground floor, residential above. When we are together discussing the thematic about how we're going to develop our boulevards, certainly that will be a topic that will be discussed in great lengths, I'm certain. So yes, we do have projects that are currently underway, and yes, we will be discussing this further during our workshops.
And a follow-up to that question from Murray Abramovich. With all the construction of condos on the major boulevards and the densification process already underway, are the future meetings for consultation or merely to provide information? So will residents have their say in those meetings? Is it, or those workshops that you mentioned, information workshops, or really residents will be participating and be consulted? France?
No, we would like the residents to have their say in what they want to see on the boulevards. We know that we have to answer to the higher government relating to the density. We have a minimum density to achieve in dwelling units density around the REM train station. So we have obligations to meet a certain number of dwelling units to be built along closer to the train stations, but we want to know at what conditions the residents want to see this development to happen, and we don't have a fixed number of stories or density that people are ready to accept. So that's what we want to discuss with the residents, and what kind of development we can see that would be convenient for us, for the neighborhoods or closer to those developments as well. So if there's more green space, what number of stories is acceptable near the smaller houses, bungalows, etc. So we need to discuss it together. We don't have, it's not just purely information, it's to exchange and discuss and have a conversation about it before we make any choices.
And
go ahead, Carrie.
I was just going to say, if I may add, part of the reason why we're going through this again, and we've relaunched the consultation process, is really because further to some of the projects that you've seen recently through the process that I mentioned earlier, the Skyope process, have led us to have mobilized the community around the discussion of densification, and have led us to basically need to further reflect on various densification projects. So that's why we're, going through these consultations again, is to have a collective period of reflection on the development future of our boulevards and our transit-oriented development areas.
Thank you, Gary. Petite traduction rapide là, pour les francophones dans la salle. La question de Mary Abranovich concernait, dans le fond, le processus de consultation et particulièrement les ateliers. Donc, Mary demandait est-ce que ce sont des ateliers d'information où on va vraiment être consulté? Donc, les réponses qui ont été données à la fois par France et Carrie ont à l'effet que oui, ce sont des ateliers de consultation dans lesquels il va y avoir des débats sur les différents sujets, incluant la densification et l'avenir des boulevards. Donc, il s'agit effectivement d'activités de consultation. Georges de Matos is asking, does the city know the number or percentage of residents that travel to downtown regularly for work and that will need to take the REM in the future? So do we have any data, Carrie in France, about the percentage of or the number of residents that work downtown or need to commute to the downtown of Montreal? I guess that's the downtown they're talking about. So do we have information about this? And do we have a perspective or projections on the potential number of residents or proportion of the residents that could take the REM when that the REM is in service?
There are some studies that are available about des études de destination pour connaître to know where the people, where they travel every day, how many people travel every day and where. There are studies available. The last one for the area, the West Island and the Montreal area, dates from 2018. They're working on a new version of it, more actual and post-pandemic. So we're hoping to have it soon. So we'll have some statistics during the next year, maybe. I'm not sure if we'll have them. If not, we'll use the latest version that we have to work with. But yes, we try to get as much information from existing studies and statistics in the area of Montreal.
Thank you. So you do have information about this. Donc, la question portait sur la disponibilité de statistiques des gens qui se rendent régulièrement de façon quotidienne au centre-ville de Montréal et qui pourraient utiliser le REM. Et donc, on nous mentionne que cette information-là est disponible. Il y a des données qui datent de la période pré-pandémique et on attend une nouvelle étude. Sheila is asking, since there's a no overnight parking bylaw, will the mixed-use development provide underground or above-ground parking for each of the residents? Donc, la question, je comprends, et je vais la poser en français aussi, pour répondre en anglais. Donc, la question, est-ce qu'on va prévoir le stationnement pour l'ensemble des nouveaux développements? C'est comme ça que je comprends la question de Sheila. So, will these new developments will include parking for these residents because of the no overnight parking bylaw? So, France or Carrie?
I can take this question. The projects that we have approved recently, I'm not sure if Sheila is referring to the specific projects that are currently under construction, but the parking is underground. In one case, it's 2 levels of underground parking. So what we're seeing more and more is with our redevelopment projects, we are requiring underground parking. How that will translate into the new zoning bylaw, it remains to be seen, and will derive from this process.
So the city can require a certain amount of parking spots in those new developments for the future residents.
Yes, parking ratios will be found in the new zoning bylaw.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So I don't have any more questions. Maybe I'll let a few seconds for those who haven't had the opportunity to write their questions. There you go. So, J.B. Vinette, first, thank you for having this meeting in English. Yes.
Monsieur Bénard, juste, on a une question qui a été posée en début de rencontre qui a malencontreusement été transférée rapidement dans les répondus, mais je vais vous en faire part pour qu'on puisse y répondre si ça vous va.
Allez-y.
La question est de Madame ou Monsieur Vinette, JB Vinette first. Thank you for having this meeting in English and French. My question is whether it is possible for more residents to join the volunteer committee.
Merci beaucoup. Donc, on va poser la question à France. Is it possible, France, if you want to join us? Thank you very much. Is it possible for other residents to be part of this committee, the monitoring committee, le comité de suivi that you've mentioned a bit earlier?
No, malheureusement, I'm sorry about my English. I'm not the best bilingual in the group here. The committee was formed 2 weeks ago. We had our first meeting last week, and there were 7 residents that were chosen. And no, that is the committee, so we won't have any other members coming in. But we welcome you. We hope you will come to the activities and that you will send us your comments and your ideas by email or any way you want, but to provide your cooperation and participate in all the events. Doesn't have to be in the monitoring committee, but I'm sure you can be part of the discussion with us.
Okay, we'll make a quick summary at the end of the meeting on ways you can participate. There's quite a number of activities, so we hope you can attend these activities. Olga Papatatos, it was mentioned that DDO is required to provide a certain density of citizens around the REM. Is this requirement made by Montreal, which I guess the city of Montreal, or the government of Quebec? So let's start. There's 2 questions, so please don't raise a question after we answer the first part. I'll start with that. So who is actually requiring a certain density around the future REM stations? What level of government is asking for that or imposing that?
It's the Communauté Métropolitaine de Montréal. So it's a greater area of Montreal who is imposing a certain density around the transit-oriented development around the train station. And I know that they are in revision of their own plan, and we don't know exactly what is this density. So today we will know sometimes maybe in the coming months.
Okay, so it's a requirement from the Communauté Métropolitaine de Montréal, so the greater Montreal. The second part of the question was, is this requirement part of the contract made by the company operating the REM? So is there any relationship between this requirement for density and the REM's project itself? I mean, or the company building and operating the REM? Is there any sort of...
It's probably related to Quebec. It is related to the Quebec. There's a grandes orientations gouvernementales from the province of Quebec by building, because the province of Quebec is building this transport infrastructure, which is the REM. They want to maximize the use of it by doing the most of having most of the dwellings around the stations. So it's the province of Quebec as well as other levels of planning and government. They all want to maximize the use of this area.
Here, Olga is asking about the company who's building the REM. So it's not the company, my understanding, it's the other levels of government that were posing that densification. Thank you. Sheila, will there be a review of the public transportation in order to have more buses running at extended hours and in relation with the REM? Many students are stranded after rush hours. So will the arrival of the REM change the way the DDO area will be served by buses? Will there be more buses, extended hours? Do we have information about this?
At the moment, there are the STM is looking at sort of the network I can't speak to that exact question. I do know that there is sort of a redrafting of the different network, different lines that is currently taking place. But I don't currently have a specific response to that question. But undoubtedly there will be modifications.
Thank you. John Bakakis, a follow-up comment, I guess, mentioned that your underground parking regulation within a stone's throw on Brunswick and Davignon and Decan have different lower radios. There seemed to be no logic. So will it, through this revision of the urban plan, will the parking regulation be looked at in order
Yes.
to make sure that it's consistent across the city?
Yes.
Harry.
So we will be looking at parking ratios. Currently, our ratios really date back to the original bylaw of the 1960s. So we do plan on looking at the ratios and determining what ratios are most appropriate for our territory and what ratios are most appropriate, for instance, in transit-oriented development areas where there is higher density, probably less dependence on the automobile because of the availability of easy to access public transport.
Thank you. Another person is asking if it's possible to reach out to the members of the committee to provide feedback. How do we reach them? So maybe, France, can you remind us the role of this committee? And also, how can residents give us feedback so we take that in consideration in the process? France?
The role of the committee is to overview the work of the city, to make sure that the process to make people participate in the revision of the urban planning is well done and includes the population. So this committee is not really looking at the content of the planning program or the bylaws, but is making sure that the city works with the community and with the citizens and obtain their input and ideas before they make the final draft of the planning program. If you want to provide your ideas and your comments we have an email address, which is consultation@ddo.qc.ca. consultation@ddo.qc.ca. You can send us some comments and we'll take them. But as you have seen the names of the people in the committee, if they are your neighbors, if you know them, you're welcome to approach them and talk to them and see how you can participate as well.
But I understand that the official channel to provide feedback to this committee regarding the consultation process is through this address, consultation@ddo.qc.ca. So anytime, and I suppose this address is on the website, France?
Yes, it's on the website, and we'll keep it there. And it's in the invitation that you received by mail as well.
Excellent. So unfortunately, I don't have the name of the person who wrote that question, but if you want to provide feedback, please use this address and we'll make sure that the committee gets the information and the feedback from the residents. Nicole Charette, since the REM is in Pointe-Claire, Pierrefonds, how many kilometers away from the REM station are we to densify? Donc, à quelle distance, étant donné que les stations sont, qu'il y a des stations, par exemple, à Pointe-Claire et à Pierrefonds, quel est le rayon dans lequel la densification est exigée? So what's the sort of the distance between the station and for the densification area that's covered by that? Is it something that we know?
At this point, we have a 1 kilometer radius around the station to respect a certain density, but this is being revised. We don't know yet what the future PMAD, Plan d'Aménagement et de Développement, from the Montreal Metropolitan Community will be. But at the same time, we know that the two boulevards are the main access to those train station, and there might be some pressure to densify those boulevards along the boulevard as well, because there will be a important line of buses going to the stations on those roads. So far we have a 1 kilometer radius around the station where we need to respect a certain density of dwelling units.
There's Kimberly Chung. In the last decade, there has been an alarming increase in speeding and non-respect of speed limits and stop signs. As additional traffic is added to the city, are there plans to build infrastructure in such a way that pedestrian and cyclist traffic will not become adversely affected? So is there any, as there is issues, as Kimberly mentioned, with regards to traffic, and is there any ways in the plan that you'll be looking at safety of pedestrians or infrastructure that city could put in place to make sure that there is no risk, or that there's an improved safety for both pedestrians and cyclists? Is this part of the thinking of the urban plan? We'll address that to Carrie.
So certainly I invite Mrs. Chung to come and participate in our workshop where we will be discussing traffic and mobility, which will be held again this fall, because we will be looking and we will be discussing the impact and the transformation of the arrival of the REM and the development of our boulevards will have. So again, I don't have answers to that at this moment. Yes, it does form an integral part of the urban planning program. But again, we will be holding a workshop to discuss this particular aspect even further.
Thank you, Carrie. George de Matos mentions here, we can see that the large boulevards are used at rush hour by residents from other cities such as Pierrefonds and Île-Bizarre that need to access Highway 40. These cities are building large residential projects, and we can expect the volume of traffic to increase even more. The question is, what collaboration can we expect from these cities on adding capability to increase or improve the flow of traffic north-south? So are you, do you expect more traffic coming from these cities? Are you in discussion with these cities in the urban planning process? Can you talk to us a little bit more about that? Do you have any kind of control over this?
We always get together with with our colleagues and with other cities and discuss different matters, major issues related to planning. But it's a very good point. We need to bring it to the discussion and find ideas on how we can work with the neighbor cities to not to find good solutions with them, so that we're not an enclosed city.
Donc, question intéressante. Je vais peut-être la traduire aussi pour pour les francophones dans la salle. Donc, la question, c'est qu'on reçoit aussi beaucoup de trafic qui vient de l'extérieur de la ville. Et est-ce qu'il y a donc une collaboration qui s'établit avec les villes voisines pour s'assurer de gérer ce trafic qui vient de l'extérieur? France répond que c'est effectivement une bonne suggestion et que c'est quelque chose qui va devoir être pris en considération. Alors, merci, George. Ça fait le tour des questions que nous avons reçues. Donc, nous avons reçu à peu près une vingtaine de questions. Je vais maintenant, voyant qu'il n'y a pas d'autres questions qui se sont ajoutées, je vais donc passer à la suite de la présentation. Si vous voulez bien remettre maintenant la diapo, la suivante. Donc, rapidement, la précédente, voilà, comment participer aux activités. Donc, voilà, première des choses, assister aux activités. Hein. Vous avez donc des activités qui vous ont été présentées. Je vais faire un résumé dans quelques instants. Bien entendu, on est très content que vous ayez participé à cette session-ci. On vous encourage de parler à vos voisins hein, pour leur faire part de l'importance de participer à ces activités. Vous pouvez nous suivre sur le site de la ville de DDO. Vous avez l'adresse ici. Et vous pouvez nous écrire également à consultation@ddo.qc.ca. Donc, how to participate. You can attend all of the activities. There's a few that will be coming in the fall. Tell your neighbors, ask your neighbors to get involved. Follow us on the website of the city. And for any feedback, please write to us at consultation.ddo.ca. Just a quick reminder of the upcoming activities. And all of these activities will be in the evening, starting at 7. And they will be in person. So September 20, we'll have a panel of experts on the challenges that suburban cities face while planning their territory. October 11, there's the thematic workshop number 1. It will be on traffic and the future of mobility in DDO. But obviously, as it was mentioned a bit earlier, there's other topics that can be discussed, but that's the general theme. Second thematic workshop on November 8 on the development of the major boulevards of DDO. And there is a possibility, or the urban planning team is working on an open house with some of these agencies that are working on these public transit projects. Donc, REM, STM, and IFTM, a date to be determined. Donc, quelques activités, le panel d'experts sur le défi d'aménagement des banlieues, l'atelier numéro 1 sur la circulation et l'avenir de la mobilité à DDO et l'atelier numéro 2 sur le développement des grands boulevards. Possiblement, on travaille fort là-dessus, porte ouverte sur le transport collectif avec les agences REM, STM et ARTM. Donc, c'est ce qu'on avait pour vous ce soir. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much for participating in this information meeting. We certainly hope to see you in all of the activities that are coming in the fall. Again, tell your neighbors, it's an important activity. And as it was mentioned during this meeting, these are real consultation activities. The city wants your opinion on this. The city wants your ideas. So, participez de façon nombreuse. Informez vos voisins. Ce sont des activités très importantes pour l'avenir de votre ville. Donc, un grand merci de votre participation ce soir et au plaisir de vous revoir bientôt.